What's up, fight fans? Welcome to Triple THS, brought to you by Kountermove Fancy MMA at Kountermove.com. I'm the off-brand gaming controller of mixed martial arts, Tommy Toehold. Today, my UFC 178 Kountermove picks. Let's do this shit! Fight fans, despite the main event changing 13 times, this is one of the best cards that's ever happened in the fucking history of ever. Top to bottom, this is hands down the best card of the year. Demetrius Johnson's defending his title, the return of Kat Zingano and Dom Cruz, Conor McGregor's taking on Dustin Poirier, Eddie Alvarez is making his fucking debut against Donald Cerrone. Every single fighter on this card has a Wikipedia page. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? If you don't get this card, you hate mixed martial arts and everything it stands for. But what am I talking about? Of course you're getting this card. It is your duty as a citizen of the universe. And you know what would make that duty all the better? Do you know what would make this just the best fucking night you've ever had? Kountermove Fancy MMA at Kountermove.com. Tommy, I told you before, I'm scared of new things. What is Kountermove Fancy MMA? What if a bear attacks me while I'm making my picks? There's nothing I can do about bears. Okay? They're everywhere, and they're vicious killers, and they're thinking about eating you right now. But what I can do is hold your hand and walk you through how to play Kountermove Fancy MMA at Kountermove.com this Saturday for UFC 178. First thing you're gonna wanna do is get to the internet. Any old browser will do. I prefer Chrome because Google already makes everything else in my life, so why the fuck not? But use whatever you want. Head over to Kountermove.com, and the first thing you're gonna notice is the lovely and faster than fuck Natasha Wicks. Pry your eyes away from her for just a second, and you will notice that there are all sorts of Kountermove games. Big ones, small ones, some as big as your head. We've got them for all shapes and sizes, fight fans. But the one I want is the one with my name on it, the big money tourney. $25 gets you in. The winner takes home $2 grand, top 67 payout. Now, I may not be a winner, fight fans, but god damn it, I would hope I'm at least 67th. Once you've picked your game, you'll be sent to the team selection screen. Now, in just a moment, I'm gonna go over every single fight and who you probably should be picking, starting with John Howard and Brian Ebersol. But before I get into that, let me explain how this works. It's just like fantasy football, guys. You pick a team of 5 fighters, you've got $25,000 for $10 to spend on them, they perform, you score points, you win. It's a one-night deal. This isn't Vegas, and these are not straight picks. We need performances, which means the faster your fighters get to finish, the more points you're gonna get. If you got the most points at the end of the night, you're the fucking winner. It's that simple, fight fans. So if you don't take anything from what I tell you about these fighters, at least take that you want fighters who are gonna finish and finish fast. Just like the first time you ever got a... Never mind, let's just go through the picks. First up, as I've mentioned, we got John Howard and Brian Ebersol. Both guys have identical finish rates. Ebersol has 67 fucking fights. Howard has only had 1 first-round finish in the UFC and 3 decisions since coming back. Ebersol has lost his last 2 and hasn't finished since 2011. If I had to pick on this one, I would probably go with Ebersol, but he's not worth the $5,000. Stay away from this one if you can. Next up, we've got Amanda Nunes and Kat Zingano. Kat is coming off a long layoff after an injury, but is unbeaten and finishes 87% of her fights. Nunes finishes 100% of her fights. Somebody is getting fucking got in this fight, guys. Nunes has a lot of first-round finishes, but Kat is arguably the best fighter in this division after Ronda Rousey. You gotta pick on this fight fans. I'm gonna go with Kat. It's very hard to pick against her, but if you went the other way with it, Nunes is a steal on this fight, which is sure to end early. Next, we've got Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor. Both guys have roughly the same amount of fights, but Poirier has been at a higher level of competition a lot longer. Both dudes finish people a lot. This is gonna be another fight you want to have in your tourney no matter what side you're on. McGregor and Poirier both have only been finished via submission. McGregor has a lot of first-round finishes. I'm gonna go with McGregor, but if you were inclined not to believe the hype, Poirier is a good value pick. Next up, we've got Patrick Cote and Wonderboy Stephen Thompson. Cote has a shit ton of experience. Wonderboy finishes lots of fights and in spectacular fashion. Cote hasn't had a KO in the UFC since 2008, and Thompson has been railroading guys since he got in the division. However, the only person to ever finish Patrick Cote via KO is Anderson Silva. I think the crafty vet survives, and because of that, I would avoid this fight because I think it goes the distance, but I'm picking Thompson to win. Alright, this next one is fucking awesome. Donald Cerrone is taking on Eddie Alvarez. Both dudes, tons of experience. Both dudes, ice motherfuckers. Cerrone has had 7 fights since I finished this sentence. Alvarez has only had 2 fights in the last 2 years. Alvarez has not been finished since 2007, but the Cowboy is on a fucking hot streak lately. 4 finishes and 4 performance of the night bonuses. Do not pass this one up, fight fans. I cannot pick against the Cowboy. He has been way too good lately. I'm going with Cerrone. Alright, next up after that, we've got Manny Gamburian and Cody Gibson. This is a prelim fight fans. Gibson has higher finish rates, and his last win was a first-round finish. Gamburian is solid, but his last first-round stop was 4 years ago. Normally, these prelim fights are a great place to score points, but I just don't know about this one. There's way too many question marks. I would say Gibson if I had to pick because of the higher finish rate, but definitely not worth the $5,000 on this card with fighters who have way more stops. Next, we've got John Tuck and Kevin Lee. Tuck has a higher finish rate and more octagon experience. Neither of these dudes has had a finish in the UFC. I would pick Tuck if I had to, but take a pass on this one. Next, we've got Captain America Tim Kennedy and the Winter Soldier of God, Yoel Romero. This one is deceptive because Romero has looked like a straight killer these last few times, but Kennedy is very experienced with lots of top-level fights. He will not be an easy out by any stretch. And although Romero is an Olympic-level wrestler, he only has 9 fights in his MMA career at age 37. Kennedy has never been stopped in Strikeforce or the UFC. I'm going with Kennedy on this one. I think he gets the finish. Next up, we've got James Krause and Jorge Masvidal. Masvidal has a 44% finish rate and only 1 finish since 2009 in the UFC and Strikeforce. Krause, on the other hand, is a 90% finisher, but the chances of him subbing Masvidal are slim. Krause has had 2 of his 3 UFC fights end via stoppage, and with Masvidal likely taking the fight 15 minutes, that's a lot of time for Krause to do work. Both guys have lots of experience. However, this is a very high-risk fight to pick on. Masvidal is likely going to win, but he will also likely take it to a decision. Next up, we've got the return of the Dominator. Dom Cruz and Takeya Mizugaki are going at it. I cannot express enough how much you should avoid this fight on your counter move game. Let me break this down. Cruz has not fought since 2011, and we'll have no idea how he's going to perform. And while he was dominant as a champion, he also had a 63% decision rate. Mizugaki has even more decisions at 70%. His last 6 in the UFC were decisions. Both of these dudes are high level, so they're not going to slip up. Dominic Cruz wins the fight, but it's very likely it goes the distance. And at 5,700 for this pick, he is way too costly. Finally, fight fans, we got the main event. Mighty Mouse taking on Chris Carasso. There's not a lot to say here. Johnson has a 65% finish rate. Carasso has a 71% decision rate. Johnson's only loss in the UFC was a decision to Dominic Cruz. The dude is a straight-up killer. If you want to spend the money, go with Johnson. There's a 65% chance he's going to get you a stop. All right, so once you've considered the matchups, you're going to make your picks. I'm going to get nuts here, fight fans, and I'm going to go with some heavy hitters with high price tags. I'm picking Zingano, McGregor, Cerrone, and Kennedy, and that leaves me with practically no money, so guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to get nuts. I'm taking a chance. High risk, high reward off the top rope. I'm picking James Krause to stop Jorge Masvidal. He's looked good in his last few with his hands. If he's got time to work, maybe he catches Jorge, or maybe he catches him in the first 10 seconds, and I laugh my fucking ass all the way to the bank. Those are my picks. Pick however the fuck you want. Once you've selected your team, hit play now, then invite some friends. Come fight night, you can see how you're doing against everybody else in your tourney throughout the night. Fight fans, you're going to get UFC 178. Stop lying to yourself. Why not make this the best fucking fight card you and your friends have ever had? Sign up for Kountermove, get your friends to sign up, get an attorney together, drink a bunch of beer, and scream like it's a title fight from the first prelim to the end of the night, because there's a good chance that somebody in that room will have a fighter on their team in every single fight. It makes fight night so much more fun. There's a shit ton of options on games to play, free games, big games, make your own fucking games. And guess what, fight fans? Because I love the shit out of you, if you make a deposit at countermove.com from now to before the fights and use the promo code Cheez-Its, you're gonna get a 30% bonus on your deposit. You cannot go wrong, fight fans. If you were ever gonna play Kountermove Fantasy MMA, Saturday night is that night. For everybody Triple THS, I'm Tommy Toehold. Look for me on the leaderboard. If it was alphabetized, I'd still probably end up on the bottom somehow.